Nothing. Nothing but. Nothing but net. Net.
Welcome to Nothing But Net, the podcast for triple net commercial real estate investing. Before we get into the meat of today's show, let's recap on why there's so much interest and buzz around net properties. Triple net properties are commercial real estate investments where the tenants, usually brand name corporations, pay you rent every month. Can you say mailbox money? In addition, they pay the real estate taxes, insurance, and maintenance for the property. No toilets, termites, or taxes. What's not to like? You can remember what net or triple net stands for by using TIM, taxes, insurance, and maintenance. With triple net properties, there's lower risk income and cash flow because rents are guaranteed by strong credit tenants. Preservation of wealth, because rent increases and property appreciation are bulwarks against inflation and a great store of value. Tax efficiency. The government wants investment in commercial real estate, so they provide inducements through depreciation and deductions which shelter income from taxation. Tax deferral, which gives potential for infinite tax deferral with 1031 exchanges, which are very popular in the triple net space. Triple net properties are a tangible asset, and as Mark Twain once said, buy land. They ain't making any more of it. Hello and welcome back to Nothing But Net, the podcast for triple net commercial real estate investing. I'm your host, Adam Carswell, joined today as always by our co-host, Michael Flight, CEO of Liberty Real Estate Fund. And Michael, it's great to be back on the mic, back on the horse here creating content with you. And I know we're looking forward to the future of the show as well. After we had a little hiatus there, we had the Blockchain Real Estate Summit and some other cool things going on. So happy to be back here. And speaking of the Blockchain Real Estate Summit, just briefly, kind of, if you don't mind sharing, maybe just some of your key takeaways from that experience.
Oh, I thought it was just incredible. With the Blockchain Real Estate Summit, and if somebody wants to learn more about that, they can go to blockchainrealestatesummit.com. But it was kind of a culmination of something that you and I, had been working on since probably mid 2020, and that was education for how do people issue security tokens, how is blockchain going to affect real estate and things like that. So we kind of refounded the Chicago Blockchain Real Estate Collective, and that's since been renamed the Blockchain Real Estate Meetup. And so we're going to start doing more educational material with that. But what we tried to do was do a one-day thing so that somebody that was interested in seeing how blockchain was going to affect real estate, and also learning if I wanted to issue, and this is going to dovetail perfectly into what our discussion today is. So I really wanted to design the summit, and you and I, and we had a great team that worked together to put together, if somebody was issuing a security token, what would the steps be? So we started with the attorneys, the accountants. We went with the people that are actually issuing securities. We went with, and one of the highlights was your interview with some of the just innovative blockchain real estate projects that didn't have anything to do with security tokens, but just the really cool things that people are doing out there. With tokenization and with coins and everything else. And then we went to, liquidity makers, like we had T0, which is a full-blown exchange. We had Oasis Pro Markets, which is an automatic trading system. And the part that the people got lost the most on was the liquidity panel, because those guys speak an entirely different language than real estate people. So, it's like, yeah, that was great. I just don't know what those guys were talking about. And then I personally think, and we're going to start releasing some excerpts of it, the keynote interview between Robert Helms and Stephane Debates. To me, I could have lost, thousands of dollars on this, blockchain real estate summit, but luckily we didn't. Luckily it was it was a great event, and we had, great sponsors, and we also had great attendance. But that, interview with Robert and Stefan was just worth the price of admission, because right there you saw a guy, Robert, who knows syndication, who knows hotels, who knows most of the major players in real estate, interviewing somebody that's right now doing the future, and has already been, the pioneer in issuing a token. In his token, Aspen Coin, he tokenized a St. Regis Hotel out of Aspen, and that his Aspen Coin, anybody listening today can go to T0 and invest in Aspen Coin. So that was the highlight of it. And if somebody wants to sign up for next year, we're going to do it again in September. They can go to blockchainrealestatesummit.com. And that also has informations on the upcoming blockchain real estate meetups. So we're putting together some of those and planning those, and going to get, doing a few more of those to just get interesting people, and just get more education out there.
Yeah. Validating everything you said there. It was a great experience. It was also nice for most of us to finally get out of our house or town for the first time and actually be face-to-face and meet people and talk about an industry.
Or in the case of our master of ceremonies, out of his little island in his little country, Adam Carswell was the premier master of ceremonies for the Blockchain Real Estate Summit.
Are you saying premier because I'm also coming from Canada?
A little bit of a Canadian joke there, eh?
Yeah. So it was awesome. And thank you, Michael, for the opportunity. I'm looking forward to next year's event and hopefully more. I heard there's some rumors that we might even go international with it. I'll be pushing Michael and our leadership team on that one. But yeah, it was awesome. And I think my general takeaway was there was, for the most part, a lot of the attendees entered into this conference with a bunch of question marks and left with a bunch of clarity. So again, you go to blockchainrealestatesummit.com, and I believe you can purchase the replay of the event there too.
Yes, you can get the entire replay, all the entire day. Which, if you're looking into issuing a security token, and let's follow up with that at the end of this, because it'll dovetail nicely into what we want to talk about today is how to go bigger.
Yep.
So, or how to, if you've got a opportunity and you don't have all the equity in place, how do you go about doing that in a regulated manner?
And I want to kind of take a step back here too, just so we have some clarity. When you say how do you go bigger, I'm assuming you mean to acquire larger deals, but what is bigger to you? What is bigger to maybe our listeners? Because someone could say bigger is going from 10 million to 100 million, 100 million to $1 billion, or from 50 grand to $500,000. So what is bigger to you?
I wasn't necessarily putting a quantification on it. I was putting you, the listener out there, finds the perfect deal, but you don't have enough money for that. Whether that's $100,000 you need, or whether it's $1 million of equity that you need, or whether it's $100 million to $1 billion of equity that you need to put together the perfect deal. How do you scale that? Because as we know, most people that are in the triple net space are typically coming from some other place and doing a 1031 trade into it. And in the past, we talked with Bill Exeter on how to trade into a 1031. And then once people get into the triple net space, then they say, I like this a lot more than the toilets, trash, and termites of multifamily. I like this a lot more than, having to run a business, it's self-storage. I like this a lot more than having to deal with, some of the people that I have to deal with in my mobile home parks. So there's a whole host of people out there that say, I'm at the point now, and I'm one of those guys, because, I've done, extensive redevelopments and things that have taken, more than 10 years to actually, execute.
Plenty of toilets, tenants, and termites is what you're saying.
Yeah. And so it's great to, get into a triple net deal, and it's cash flow from the get-go. And it's why we, named the the podcast, the Nothing But Net show, because it's truly nothing but net income. You're getting a check, and it's a beautiful thing.
And one thing I just always want to highlight, especially for our newer listeners, is there's the retail apocalypse narrative. The cool thing about triple net assets are they've been proven to be super recession resistant, and if not some of the best performing assets during a time of chaos, if you will.
Right. And a lot of people only associate triple net, net, or NNN properties with retail real estate, like a Walgreens or like a Dollar General or, something of that nature. But triple net properties, the hottest triple net property out there right now, the category is triple net industrial, especially last mile logistics. And so some of those Amazon warehouse deals are trading at, below 4 caps. So those are in high demand, and that's, something that, is interesting to see. And then we've also seen triple net office buildings, and one of the most unique triple net deals is triple net casinos for, I think it's MGM Grand or Caesar's Palace. It's one triple net ground lease. So, and it's a huge, triple net deal. Right. So there's a whole host of things, but most people when they think of triple net immediately, it's like, oh, it's a McDonald's, it's a Starbucks, it's that. And it is all that in more. So it's a wide variety, and you pick a business that you're interested in, and then work that.
Got it. And then yes, so as far as taking it back to larger and bigger deals, the direction we're going to head is syndication, and syndicating a deal within the triple net space is also something that I think there's a lack of information and education out there on it. And so, happy to have you kind of share your experience and shed light on this process.
Yeah. Well, the good news is syndicating a triple net deal is exactly like syndicating almost any other deal. So just like you can syndicate oil and gas, you can syndicate multifamily, you can syndicate everything that we've already talked about. If you find, let's say you find the best located Starbucks, and it's got the drive-through, it's got everything you want, and but you just don't have enough money because it's going to take like maybe $500,000 to $1 million in equity, and right now you just don't have that, and you're not coming out of a trade where you do have the equity. So how do you put that deal together? And the good news is that doing a syndication, or there's a number of other different ways that you can raise money through friends and family. Once you exhaust your friends and family, how do you do that? And even with your friends and family, you should still do that legally. And then one more disclaimer. Neither Adam and I are attorneys or accountants or investment advisors. And this is not any type of legal advice or investment advice or accounting advice. What we're trying to do is just give you really educational material, and then it's the start of it. It gets you thinking, it gives you all kinds of great ideas, and you go out there and you contact your securities attorneys, your accountants, and if you have any special investment advisors.
Thank you. And I think we'll probably squeeze that either in. I'm trying to remember at the beginning or the end of the podcast as one more reminder for you. But the future of syndications too, as you've recently written an article on this too. I can't remember the name of the article, but we can reference that here in a moment and probably get it in the show notes as security tokens. I think that very soon, especially with the liquidity options that security tokens provide for the shareholders, when someone's looking at, the opportunity to invest in one deal compared to the next one, I do think that, and this is what we got from the conference, within the next probably less than 3 years, whichever offering is going to be a security token probably is going to have the advantage at that point. I don't know if you want to go this direction yet with syndicating the deal, but I know. Yeah,
well, what we're going to do is we're going to start out with the really easy stuff, because once you get the whole syndication down, and once you get, what a security is down, then we will go in because the security token is just, one extra layer on that. So let's start off with, what is a security and what is not a security. And so if you just buy a house on your own, or if you just buy a single Starbucks on your own or something like that, it is not a security. But if you offer to somebody else or a group of somebody else's something that they have the expectation to make money, and so it's basically an offering, or I think it's defined by the SEC as an investment contract, then you need to do the legal stuff and either issue a security full blown as an IPO, which you don't want to do in the case of a smaller offering, or you want to do a PPM and issue it under some of the exemptions that the SEC allows you to. So that's where we'll start today. And so Adam, I need you. I'm gonna test you on this one. So
let's go.
What was the court case that defined the definition of a security?
Oh, wow. I do not know, but I'm willing to bet that court case took place during or before the 1940s.
I think you're close to that. I don't know what the exact court case is, but it was after the Securities Act passed, and we're talking about U.S. securities laws. So after the Depression, they passed the Securities Act, which created the SEC, which is the Securities Exchange Commission, and so they said we get to regulate things because they were doing some crazy stuff out there, and so there was a court case where the SEC brought the W.J. Howie Company. So it's called the Howie Test to see if you actually have a security. And this has come up recently because there's been court cases with cryptocurrency, especially Telegram. So the communications thing, Telegram, which is kind of like WhatsApp or something else, Telegram actually issued what's called an ICO, which is an initial coin offering, and they sold their offering as a cryptocurrency. And the SEC came in and said, no, this is really an illegal securities offering. So you guys are going to have to disgorge the money. And what they said is that we can tell that you're offering a security because it passes the Howie test. And the Howie test usually has 4 components. And I'm going to have to read these components because I never remember them. So number 1, there is an investment of money, which can also mean assets such as cryptocurrency. So you can either invest money or you can invest cryptocurrency or something of value. Number 2, there is an expectation of earning a profit. Number 3, the investment of money is intended for a common enterprise. So that's me, Adam, and a few other people get together and we decide we're going to buy a beautiful bar in Newfoundland, and have people kiss a fish when they're going up there to, take a drink. If we all pool our money together, that's a common enterprise. And according to Howie, that would be considered a security. And any profit that comes from the efforts of a promoter, sponsor, general partner, or third party, and not from the investors. So, for example, if Adam is the person that puts the deal together to buy the bar in Newfoundland, and he raises money from American investors, he's going to get some sort of profit from that. So these are the 4 components of a security. And so if you're doing this, you should, and you're even putting together some sort of partnership, you should always have, an attorney look at it. And the better thing is when it's a partnership and you're going out to purposely raise money, you should have a securities attorney prepare an offering memorandum. So that's kind of where we start off with.
Got it. And then what, as far as finding the right attorney to work with, I know I have a few coming to mind for me right now, but what would be the best way of doing that? Just kind of starting from scratch.
I would recommend, that there is a bunch of, well, I shouldn't say a bunch of, but there's a group of well-known securities attorneys that, work in, and around different groups of people that are in the syndication space or the passive investment space. And so if you know somebody else that's doing this, you can definitely, contact them. Or if you're interested in getting a list, they can contact us, and we can give them some of the people that we've worked with in the past and know. So, but you just want somebody that actually, so just like when and we talked with Dave Barry about closing the deal and all the issues with a contract and all the issues with a lease. You want somebody that's experienced in real estate when you're acquiring the property or when you're doing a lease with the tenant. With securities, you definitely want somebody that practices securities laws. And then the other caveat, which we'll get into later, is if you're issuing a security token, you want somebody that is familiar with the ins and outs of issuing a digital asset. So we did bring up. Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Just say, for reference to episode 18 is the one that we did with Dave Barry. So if you guys want to go back and check that one out, add it to the queue as well.
Yeah. And then we did bring up some things in there. So just to clarify, an IPO is an initial public offering. That's when you're issuing stocks to the general public. And ICO is an initial coin offering. And that's when a cryptocurrency is issuing their currency. And we'll get into that. But ICOs are typically unregulated. So we're not going to talk about that in this exact conversation here, because what we're talking about is regulated securities. And then a security token offering is also known as an STO. And Adam was the co-author on a really great article. What's the difference between an STO and an STD?
That was our groundbreaker right there. But yeah, STO. So are we building that bridge here now from traditional syndication to security token?
We're going to talk about traditional syndication first. So, and I'm going to do a little bit of an ad because my great friends, and I say this because I have the warmest feelings about them. If you're interested in learning more about going bigger into detail and how you scale that business, a great start is the Real Estate Guys' Secrets of Successful Syndication, because they give you 2 days of just about everything you need to know on how to start your syndication business. And they typically do that in March and in September. So that's, and then, we'll talk about a little bit later on in the thing, when we talk about going big, we'll talk about, one of Adam's favorite programs too. But for right now, I would highly recommend, if you're just starting out, Secrets of Syndication is not only is it great because they give you great educational material and it's a great group to be involved with, and they have, other things, but they also have really good, the other people in the room are, just doing fascinating things. You're going to find out about, new investment opportunities. And I have met so many people in the real estate business that are genuine deal makers at the Real Estate Guys events. So I can't talk good enough about it. And again, Robert Helms did me a personal favor and did the keynote interview at our Blockchain Real Estate Summit. So I have to give a shout out to the Real Estate Guys, and we'll, in the show notes page, put a link to Secrets of Successful Syndication.
Yeah. And both of them are legends. And I got to be honest, you introduced me to them, and I'll never forget the feeling when we were in Austin recently. I still tremendously look up to Robert Helms, and shout out to him. But I was, sitting next to him, hanging out with him like a friend. I was like, oh my gosh, I felt like I made it. So it was cool to see just from when I first met him to our relationship now. And I got to give a huge thank you to you for that. And you forgot to mention, you do know, I believe, a world championship rodeo guy from their network as well.
Oh yeah, yeah. My good buddy Jeremy Millington. So Jeremy is just fantastic guy. I've met so many different people from so many walks of life. It's just incredible. And I do want to say something about the real estate business. When I go to my friends, the multifamily investor network from Disrupt Equity, and I go to their conferences, and you literally see America. I mean, there are so many different shades of skin colors and men, women, and everything in between. And they're all in there doing deals. And it's just the greatest thing in the world because I would bet, that there's probably like at least, 20 different, English, in 20 to 30% of the people there or more are not the native language. And they've just come to the US. The real estate has just been this great bootstrapping opportunity that they can get into. And it's just the really unbelievably cool thing about real estate. And, I'm going to brag about, the melting pot that the United States is. I mean, there are still people coming here and starting from nothing and, just building some really nice empires or building up, just a great nest egg for their family and generational wealth.
Absolutely. I have to back you up on that one after I've seen just even the comparison of being an entrepreneur in Canada to the US. And I say to myself every day, man, I am grateful that I was born in the States because I've seen the amount of success from an entrepreneurial perspective. Not to say you can't do the same thing in Canada, but there are so many more rules and laws and taxes that you got to know. So where were we in regards to syndication?
We were talking about, so how do you legally do a syndication? And you do not want to do a public offering with a syndication, but there's a number of different ways that you can raise money. So the most traditional way that people start out doing a syndication is under a specific exemption, and I'm not going to get in too deep into the weeds, but they typically do on the securities laws a 506 exemption. So it's either a 506B or a 506C. With a 506B, you can raise money from a specific amount of non-accredited investor. An accredited investor has to make over $200,000 annually, I think for the last 3 years or 2 years, or they have to have $1 million net worth exclusive of a residence. Or they can be individuals, financial professionals who hold a securities license. But those are accredited investors. So with these offerings, you need to offer it to an accredited investor. And with the 506B, you can offer it to several non-accredited investors. The difference between the 506B and the 506C is you cannot have any non-accredited investors, but you can advertise it, whereas you can't advertise a 506C. Do you have anything else to add to that?
Yeah, just to clarify, I think because you might have, I knew what you were trying to say, but again, to just clarify for our viewers, so 506B and 506C, the thing that is the same between the two is whoever is investing with you needs to be accredited. However, if you choose to go the 506C instead of B route, with C, you can market it publicly. You don't have to have a previous existing relationship with whoever it is that's investing with you. 506B, you have to have shown proof that you've already known this individual before they basically give you their money, their capital. And I believe it's like a 30-day period. Is that correct?
You would know better than I do. I also thought there was that you could have a limited number, like under 20 or 25 non-accredited investors. We don't do 506Bs. So, and this is why you need to talk to a securities attorney because
right. We had the disclaimer.
yes, because but those are the two differences. But you are correct. The biggest difference is with the 506C, you have to verify that everybody's accredited, but you can advertise it and market it widely. And with the 506B, you would not even want to mention it on any type of social media or anything like that. Because you could potentially get, fined and all the rest of it from the SEC.
Yeah. Yep. Do not want that. So, so now that we've got the legal side of things ironed out, we're ready to go start raising money.
Well, there's two more ways you can raise money.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can also raise money through a regulation CF, which is a regulation crowdfunding. And I can't remember what the exact exemption is, but you can raise up to $5 million in any 12-month period. And you can do it as long as you do it through a crowdfunding portal. That's a legal exemption. So you could take your deal, and let's say you had the best McDonald's in the world, and you could put it up on one of the real estate crowdfunding portals and raise up to $5 million of equity that way. And the key thing is you can only do one fundraise for that in any 12-month period. And the other one is the Regulation A, which they call the mini IPO. And so a Regulation A, in a crowdfunding and a Regulation A, you can accept non-accredited investors. So those can be widely marketed, and anybody with any amount of money, I believe, I think crowdfunding, you might need to have some sort of $5,000 or something to your name. But with Reg A, anybody can, and you can have very small increments, but anybody can invest in it. There's a limit. In a 12-month period, you can only raise $75 million, which only is not a bad amount of money to raise in a 12-month period.
And I'm sure there's plenty of Reg A success stories out there, but I got to be honest, I feel like anytime I've heard of a Reg A offering, it was more of like, oh, I'm never going to do that again. So just want to float that out there as well.
A Reg A offering sounds great. There is more legal compliance with it. And if you're accepting money from a lot of smaller investors, there's going to be a lot of paperwork to comply with that. So it would probably be better if you could raise your money with as few investors as possible, because that's less accounting, that's less distribution, and all the rest of it on the back end. So that's one of the things that you have to say. It's like, am I better off doing 100,000 individual investors at $50 a piece, or would my life be easier bringing in 3 investors at, let's say, 250 to 500,000 a piece?
Yeah, exactly.
But you have to weigh the trade-offs. Those 3 larger investors might have a lot more to say in your life.
That's true as well. Yep.
Yeah.
You definitely want to not put yourself in a position where, I don't say you become a puppet, but you become very loyal or responsible for one investor's say in what you're doing.
Yeah,
so,
one investor, you're kind of beholden to them, which is, we in the past for close to 30 years have done institutional real estate, and everybody says, well, why wouldn't you keep doing institutional real estate? And I say, well, it's great because the money's there, and the money's there. The big problem is that they also have a lot more control over what you can do and what you cannot do. And there's definite trade-offs to it. And if they decide that they're going to divest everything from the triple net category, or because somebody new comes in, isn't in charge, there goes everything that you've got. You might be, actually having to dump the stuff that you bought with them at a disadvantageous time, which, has happened to us, especially during a crash. If they need capital, sometimes it's like, well, we're closing this thing down, so we're selling it, even if we sell it at a loss.
Yeah. There you go. You've got a real life example from Michael.
And then there's one more exemption, which is the Reg S. So you can do an offering where you raise money only from non-US investors, and that's also a way to go. you do have to be concerned about the tax implications because non-U.S. investors are taxed differently than U.S. investors from what their returns are going to be. So again, you're going to want to any of this stuff you're going to want to talk to your accountants and your attorneys. That's why we brought that up in the first place.
All right, and now we got through the legal. What is the next step?
Well, the next step is that you put together your PPM, you do your raise, and then you close on the property. The other really cool thing that we are going to get into in just a touch, and then we'll probably get into in a little bit more detail because we'll talk about, at some later podcast, the benefits for issuers and the extra benefits for investors is security tokens. So security tokens can be any one of those offerings. You can do a security token as a 506B. You can do a security token as a 506C. You could do it as a Reg F, CF. You could do it as a Reg A. You could do them as an IPO. So there's a host, and you can do them as a Reg S. So it's exactly the same as doing a normal syndication. The extra thing is that you have to have in your PPM and in your legal documentation that it says in there that these assets can be traded. And there's extra things about how they will trade on a blockchain and things like that. And all that stuff, your entire PPM, is then put into a smart contract and issued onto the blockchain. So it's no longer you have the syndication and you did a DocuSign and your papers are somewhere in a file. Your actual token is traded and you hold your token in a wallet, and you can get liquidity, number one, because those can trade peer-to-peer. Like if I had, for example, we have Liberty Fund, and Liberty Real Estate Fund is a security token offering. So if Adam wanted to buy $50,000 of my shares of Liberty Fund, he could say, I'm interested in buying, as long as he puts up the tokens and as I put up the tokens and Adam puts up the money, the trade goes through automatically. It goes peer-to-peer. And the really cool thing is that trade, it doesn't matter whether it's on a Sunday. It doesn't matter whether it's a bank holiday in the US or a national holiday in Canada. It doesn't matter if those are in the middle of the night. Those things, as long as the conditions are met with the smart contract, those things trade. The other thing is that security tokens can also be traded by brokers. They can be listed on exchanges. And, there's other really cool benefits to security tokens. So I believe most syndications in the future will be done as a form of a security token. Because number one, the token platforms, the costs are going to come down. Number two, it's going to be just more accepted. And number three, people are going to realize that blockchain is the rails of the new financial system. And so they're going to realize that I want all my assets where I control them, instead of having my assets controlled in a bank that might be stuck in, like, for example, if Adam wanted to retire down to Costa Rica, he's got some of his assets in a bank in Canada. He's got some of his stuff in, the United States. If he owned everything and he had it on his wallet, it wouldn't matter where he was. He could be in Costa Rica. He could then decide to hop over to Dubai and, winter in Dubai. He could go and decide that, Ukraine sounds like a great place to visit in the springtime. And all his assets, all his money follow him no matter where he is. And we've always liked to call Adam the international man of mystery. So that's what I envision his life to be like in the future.
It's funny you said Ukraine. I actually heard just yesterday that the country of Georgia is actually a very safe friendly and legitimate country to visit right now, especially if you're looking at opening a bank account. So it's funny you mentioned that. But
Georgia and Estonia, you can just set up an e-residency in Estonia. And the other thing, and then Adam's favorite discussion about where to set up an e-residency is the country of Liberland. And they just came out with their new ship registry, business registration, and what's the other one?
well, I know passports are being issued very soon, if not right now. I actually have to get over to the Canadian version of Walgreens/CVS Shoppers and get a headshot for my Liberland passport. So it's coming
I better
together.
jump on that now because I need my passport because I've
Yeah.
already got my Liberland residency. So, but so again, it's an international world out there. There's a whole new world of international finance, and we will talk at length more about it. But I really like to explain blockchain as just as the internet was the instantaneous, transfer of communication. So you can send an email, or we used to have to do a thing called long distance calls. So it would be insanely expensive. And now Adam and I are doing this in 2 separate countries, and it's free. So just as the internet collapsed timeframes, collapsed world communications, blockchain enables the instantaneous transfer of wealth, assets, and money. And there's one thing that we just celebrated, and it was the release of the Bitcoin white paper on October 31st, 2008. So,
Wow.
and we're doing this on November, is it November 5th or 4th?
It's the 4th right now. Tomorrow is the V for Vendetta day.
Yeah.
If you remember, have you seen that movie by chance?
Yes. Yes.
Remember the 5th. I think it's the 5th. Remember the 5th of November. Now I got to go check.
But I think in terms of life-changing moments, the Bitcoin white paper really has been transformational to the world. And an article that I am working on with my buddy Alex Petkus is how Satoshi Nakamoto, whoever it is or whoever they are, is just like the modern day Cincinnatus and George Washington, stepped up, created, what it was, went and won the war, and then stepped away and said, boom, we're releasing this onto the world. So, Cincinnatus allowed, Rome to flourish. George Washington walked away and said, I'm not going to be a king. I'm going back to my farm. And same thing, we don't know where Satoshi Nakamoto is, but he created it October 31st, 2008, walked away from it. October 23rd was 2011 was the last email, and said, boom, I'm done.
And Michael Flight gave birth to the security token.
No, I did not. There's a lot of people that did security tokens a lot before me.
I have to give that funny moment I just remember with my wife too, because I know you've sometimes explained or described yourself as a blockchain evangelist, and she accidentally said that Michael Flight was a blockchain enthusiast, and I was like, yeah, maybe he is an enthusiast as well.
I'm very enthusiastic about what blockchain does for you controlling your financial freedom. And I think that you cannot have the other types of freedom that we enjoy without having financial freedom. So the base of everything is, if you've got financial freedom, then you have freedom to speak, then you have other freedoms. Freedom right now is under attack from all places. So if you can control your freedom, and that's why I believe that, security tokens, tokenization, and you controlling your own assets, and you not having to have your assets locked up in a bank somewhere where somebody could just shut you off. It is the most revolutionary idea in the world. So with that, Adam, anything else to send us out?
That's a pretty tough one to follow up on. That's a mic drop statement and moment right there. And that's, I think, obviously why we clicked and started working together on not only this project, but just, we have these conversations all the time. And so that actually, now I think about it, that was the one other thing that I had floated on my radar earlier today is we officially started working together, Michael, you and I, about 3 years ago. So we had another anniversary recently as well. So looking forward to many more years, and thank you for joining me here. I guess I'm saying thank you to you as if you were the guest. You're kind of the guest today. Thanks for hanging out with me.
Thank you, Adam, for being the co-host of the Nothing But Net show and always bringing it home. And all the I could never have done a podcast or even started a podcast without Adam, because Adam not only had his own podcast, but also does the Libraland Show podcast, and also was doing producing for Hunter Thompson's Cash Flow Connections podcast. And one thing we forgot to mention, and we will mention, Hunter Thompson also has a great program called Raise Masters. So once you get into syndication, if you want to bring it up to the top level, then you check out Raise Masters, because they teach you about how to actually implement what you learn about syndication and raise money, have relationships, and create wealth. I mean, because the big thing about syndication, and this is what I like, is you're creating wealth for other people. So it's not just you and your family. You can create wealth for other people so that they can create wealth for their family and do things.
Love it. Well said. The ripple effect. So thank you all for joining us here today as we discussed what to do when you're acquiring larger deals. The answer is syndication, security tokens, a little bit there about raising money at the end. Thank you, Michael. And thank you all for investing your most valuable resource with us here today, your time, for the Nothing But Net podcast, the podcast for triple net commercial real estate investing. I'm your host, Adam Carswell. Michael Flight is our co-host here. And thank you for tuning in. We will catch you in the next episode. Thank you once again for joining us here on Nothing But Net, the podcast for triple net commercial real estate investing. If you enjoyed what you heard today, one last friendly reminder to like, share, subscribe, or leave a review for us. It really helps a ton with the show's visibility. For the Nothing But Net team, I'm Adam Carswell. Take care.
Nothing but net.
The Nothing But Net podcast is not intended to provide legal, tax counsel, or accounting advice. Adam Carswell, Michael Flight, Concordia Realty Corporation, Liberty Real Estate Fund, LLC, and their affiliates do not provide tax, legal, or accounting advice, or the worthiness and promotion of any particular investment. This material has been prepared for informational purposes only and is not intended to provide and should not be relied on for tax, legal, or accounting advice. You should consult your own tax, legal, and accounting advisors before engaging in any transaction or undertaking. We highly encourage individuals and investors to seek the counsel of a qualified attorney as well as seek the counsel of a tax professional or certified public accountant to determine if there are any potential tax liabilities or consequences as a result of anything contained herein. All listeners of this podcast or video should understand that there are no guarantees of any success, outcome, or profitability of any transaction or undertaking expressed or implied, and will not be liable for any financial or other losses or damages incurred as a result of any undertaking. Go to nothingbutnet.us for a complete set of disclosures. Thank you.